It is hilarious to think he's going toe to toe with Pogacar though, and I can't even get my daughter, who's a year older, to wash up.
Well, for all you know, Pat, he may be terrible at washing up.
We need to ask these questions.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Off the Back, Cycling Weekly's podcast. This is episode 14, so we are really getting into those tricky teenage years now. My name's James, I am senior writer at Cycling Weekly, and with me today are my fellow news writer, Pat.
Hello.
And technical writer, Hannah.
Hello.
So please do remember to like and subscribe. Give us a good rating, of course, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're in the UK, please do buy the magazine. So this is our first time on the podcast together, I think, guys. How are you both doing? You managing to make the most of the sunshine?
I was. It was beautiful in Devon until today, and now it's suddenly Arctic again for some reason.
Yeah, similar in up north. So I'm just on the outskirts of Manchester, right on the edge of the Peak District, and we've had glorious weekend. Absolutely, it wasn't too hot because I never complain it's too hot, but I did regret my cycling outfit. And yeah, pockets were utilised and there was a derobe moment on the next to Winnett's Path, which is also the area where the Tour de Femme is coming up next year. So we were in that neck of the wood. I live very close to there, but yeah, it's pretty hilly and quite hot last weekend.
Yeah, it's a tricky time of year in the UK because it's either one thing or another, and it's like hot in the day and cold in the evening. And I mean, we tried to barbecue at the weekend, and it was just the typical thing of by the time we'd cooked the food and got it all ready, it was cold and dark. So well, maybe in a couple of months' time we'll have better luck anyway. But yeah, there's been plenty going on in cycling and even away from cycling this week with racing and all sorts of other stuff going on. Pat, you wrote a story about the London Marathon, didn't you, where a few cyclists were taking part?
Yeah, there was a good few former cyclists, mainly I'm sure current cyclists as well, but former big name cyclists. So Laura Kenny probably being the biggest name of the lot, and she put in a very impressive 3-hour 45 London Marathon, breastfeeding her little baby at the end of it as well. Her mum and dad were there to look after the little one. And she was only 2 minutes behind husband Jason's time. He ran it last year. And he so it was very, very, very impressive. Very impressive.
It's pretty
time.
impressive, isn't it? It seems like cyclists, as I suppose as you might expect, they do tend to take to long distance running quite well. So it's always kind of fun to see them having a go at something different as well.
Yeah,
I did see her comments. So sorry, Pat, I was going to say I did see her comments afterwards that something along the lines of, "I'm not going to say I enjoyed it though."
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was going to say. She said she hated every minute of it, but she smashed it. So yeah,
it's fun. It's fun for us. Probably not so fun for the marathon runners themselves.
Yeah,
but at least they had a nice day for it anyway to sort of bring back the sunshine theme.
And what a day! I mean, they must have had. No, I'm not going to say they had the wind on their backs because I'm not going to take anything away from those achievements of the sub 2-hour marathon. It was an extraordinary day. But there were some other Olympians there as well. Danny Rowe she did it in 3 hours 7 minutes, which is extraordinary time. And also Chris Newton, remember he with 2 hours 34. Again.
That's
pretty
starting to rival some of the
it's pretty astonishing. That.
Some of the CW team there. I don't know what's our PB. I think Simon Richardson's.
Is it? Yeah, I wouldn't like to say, but there's some pretty quick runners on the Cycling Weekly team. Simon and Dave Bradford as well, our features editor. So I imagine those two could go toe to toe quite readily. But anyway, back on to two wheels. There's been plenty going on. And I suppose, the day we're recording this, big stories has broken with the Ineos Grenadiers new name, or well, not Ineos Grenadiers, as they're going to be called Net Company Ineos in the very near future from the start of the Giro. And Pat, you've been doing some stuff about the new sponsors at Ineos, haven't you?
Yeah. So I mean, last week there was a few, I hesitate to say minor, but yeah, well, compared to the news today, slightly smaller sponsors came on. But one of them, of people of a certain age will remember fondly from cycling days gone past, of Cafe de Colombia. So you remember that fantastic kit when they had their own team back in the 1980s, and they sort of launched the career of a whole generation of fantastic Colombian cyclists. Louis Herrera been primarily the main guy there. Obviously, he won, pretty much everything going, didn't he? So mountain classifications and all the Grand Tours, the Volta de España. He had an absolutely stunning career. King of the Mountains in the Tour de France. It's a couple of times. So yeah, he extraordinary rider. And that name, like I say, is a familiar one for people probably, well, certainly my age. I don't know about you, James.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that was kind of around about the time that I got into cycling, where the Cafe de Colombia team were, they were popular in the 80s, and, it's the Colombians kind of coming into Grand Tour riding, into basically the new world, coming into the old world of cycling, if you like. And, it's quite an exciting time. And Herrera, a great rider, and Fabio Parra as well, did quite a lot. Great to see. It's nice to see that name pop up again. Yeah.
Absolutely. But now, I mean, the really big news today, and Adam, our editor, was there at the launch. But so there was a rumor about this a little while back. But the Danish IT company, Net Company, have taken that name sponsorship. So that means that it's going to be a whole new kit in time for the Giro this year. New name, new kit. So that is pretty big news. What do you guys think of the new kit? By the way, it's kind of a grey colour. It's not the most colourful.
My initial thoughts were it's quite a big improvement on the old one.
Okay.
I know what you're saying about the grey, but I mean, the old one was kind of a kind of grey white that in some lights looked as though it just hadn't really been washed properly. So I quite like the new one. It kind of looks fairly classy. Although the Total Energies logo on it in sort of blue and white and red looks slightly incongruous, but I don't mind it. We'll see what it looks like in the peloton.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's a big deal. That's a 5-year deal. So that'll take them through from, like I say, it's from the Giro, the upcoming Giro, right through to the end of the 2031 season. So it's
I'm literally catching up with the kind of the quick and very handy Adam's piece on what you need to know. And as you're saying, the kind of the 5-year deal on there, and there is as Adam's putting a subhead about what about the kit. It's grey.
Yeah, I'm not that excited about it, to be honest.
And I mean, it's kind of the same but different, isn't it? Really, it's just a title sponsor with a slight rejig of a branding.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Ineos will be very pleased to have a 5-year sponsorship of obviously what looks like a very rich company, because that isn't necessarily easy to come by in the pro peloton. But I think another quite interesting thing about this is that they've said that this AI model that they're hoping to develop to optimize performance will kind of enable them to win the Tour de France again. So this is like, it feels like a bit of a reboot of Ineos, because I mean, I remember, 15, 16 years ago when they started as Team Sky, they put forward, right, in 5 years' time, we would have won the Tour de France. And that was actually greeted with a lot of skepticism at the time. Like, no British team is ever going to win the Tour de France was the general kind of response to that. But they did, obviously, lots of times. But they haven't for a few years now. And this is them, I guess, putting their hat back in the ring to kind of really develop another Tour de France rider. Who exactly that will be remains to be seen. Could be Oscar only.
It could be, yeah. So it's all about the data crunching and a bit of AI involvement there, I think, isn't it? That's the buzz around it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, still a British team. Obviously, still the same names involved that were before, but that's a €100 million deal, I think, is what the
is that what the number? Right,
saying.
that's the bit that had escaped me. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's always either it's bittersweet, the right word, of welcoming like what a wodge of cash being put into a British cycling team. It's payday. It's whatever kind of celebration you want to kind of reference it to, but then there's all the things that it's not. There's no women's team there. It's they're driving the AI kind of agenda. So it's kind of for me it feels it feels good, but you're still kind of questioning sport and sponsorship, and I know we've all probably covered quite a lot on kind of the greenwashing element of team sponsorship, but yeah, I guess it's a good day. Maybe we should just leave a space for that celebration.
So at the press conference, they were actually asked about a women's team and whether there was one on the horizon, which they didn't rule out, but they didn't confirm or rule in either. So you never know. Read whatever you want into that. But perhaps with that amount of money knocking around, maybe there is a chance, but we'll see.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, obviously, and one of the other things is, when one team gets a huge payday like that, you can bet there's a few smaller teams at the other end of the ladder kind of looking up thinking, well, that's just another team that we're going to really struggle to kind of compete with. Yeah. So it is a bit of a shame when you have that discrepancy between the richest and the least rich. But that is modern sport. I'm not sure that's a kind of whole other debate. But yeah, there we are.
Yeah.
I guess moving on, Hannah, you've been looking at some really interesting new stuff in the gravel arena, haven't you?
Well, we have, and it's quite controversial, really, because I hadn't appreciated. I didn't actually. Let me kind of caveat that. Like, this is my colleague Aaron who has written a piece, and he is, and I do say, like, he is our kind of gravel expert, I suppose. He's come back from riding Unbound a few times now. I think he's kind of thrown his hat in the ring there. So he very much is the gravel kind of king in the team. And he was covering a lot that was kind of coming out from Sea Otter, again, which is like another main kind of gravel expo out in the US with various races attached to it. And I suppose and basically what's come out of it is the tyre sizes. And ultimately, like, how big is too big? So it's kind of been around for a couple of years now, this kind of crossover more into like mountain bike tyres. And at Sea Otter, there was a bike brand. Well, actually, it was a reboot of an original, which was back in 2019, I want to say. So it's an open wide wi.de bike. And it can take, in theory, can't remember what the size of the model was on the images, etc., that you can have a look on our website and see all the details about it. But it can take up to 66 mil tyres, which in old money is like 2.6. So, which in my head...
That's bonkers.
That's like, Are we not just riding 29er mountain bike tyres now? Like, what?
Yeah.
Where's the difference? And where were they getting these tyres from? I was like,
And well, that's it. I mean, who sells 66 mil tires? I'm not sure I've
gravel.
seen.
Well, there. So then you're like, well, but then actually looking back through our pieces, and again, name checking my other colleague, Matt, who is just amazingly, he loves this kind of stuff, and he will deep dive into, you want to talk about tyre compounds, he's the guy. But he was kind of flagging some previous things that we did. So one of our US, because the way the gravel is not gravel is not all equal. So the US and the UK's gravel interpretation is incredibly different. And we've always had this kind of conversation as to, what gravel you would ride in the US is so different to the gravel that I would ride up here in Manchester and on the edge of the Peak District. And the US have kind of been following this concept for a little bit longer of what probably we would be riding hardtail XC bikes, cross-country bikes up here, whereas the US are kind of doing this weird bit where they're meeting in the middle of either putting drop bars on mountain bikes or they are putting big tires on gravel bikes. And I guess it's kind of where you do that or what the best way to mix that is. But I don't know. Does anyone have any thoughts of when is a gravel bike? Well, when is it? Yeah, I suppose when is a gravel bike not a gravel bike?
Yeah, because in that same piece, there was a bit of talk about front suspension as well and everything. I mean, it really is veering very close to mountain bikes with drop bars, isn't it?
I know, and I can't help but also think: are we not just like this is a touring bike? Like in my head, I'm thinking this is what we've been riding on canal towpaths around Europe for a very long time, and now we're just making them faster. I don't know.
I mean, I was just going to say I think the kind of joke for a long time had been that gravel bikes are surely just 90s mountain bikes with drop handlebars, which actually, I think people that say that, yeah, I mean, they're getting closer and closer, but I mean, I do think the geometry is like significantly different, but yeah, I find it really interesting the way tyres are just kind of expanded. I think gravel bikes, they first, they were popular with road riders because they looked a lot like a road bike. And now, you've got all these roadies hooked. And then at this point, they're more willing to experiment with stuff that takes it closer to what a mountain bike would traditionally be, with the big tyres, maybe a bit of suspension. One thing for me that I kind of sigh inwardly slightly when I see it is new standards, like, for example, wheel sizes. Because although it might be technically better, and, maybe in years or months I hold my hands up and say, yeah, this is wonderful. But when I see like new wheel sizes, I kind of think, oh, this is just going to create sort of that, almost the barrier to entry, because you've got to then decide what standard am I going to go for, and then or your bike is in danger of becoming obsolete because it doesn't meet the new standard. So I wish they'd stick to the same wheel sizes, quite frankly. But yeah, I like the fat tires.
That's a fair point.
Because that's a lot of what suspension is, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
the air in your tires.
Exactly.
Go on,
but those things do look like they roll over pretty much anything, don't they? But then obviously there's the weight to consider as well. So
yeah, I mean, my only request is that we stop calling it standards, because it's not. Like when you get, a standard surely means a defined number, a size. But now it's got to the stage where we've got so many standards, then they're no longer standards. They are just existing. So whether it's bottom brackets, wheel sizes, or whatever, let's not pretend that anyone actually wants to make anything that will be compatible with something else. Like, that's just a fallacy that does not exist. I don't, for anyone who's ever tried to even change a bottom bracket, moving slightly away from talking about the size of gravel tyres. But yeah, there's, it's near on impossible to do any basic kind of maintenance without buying a bespoke tool or sizing or So if we can just move away from trying to standard something that isn't actually a standard. That would do somewhat for my mental health, I think.
Fair point.
Yeah. I spoke to Ted King, the gravel racer. He used to be a road pro with Cannondale.
Many years ago.
Yeah,
he was one
going
of the
back
fun
maybe
guys.
10 years. Sorry?
He was like one of the like fun guys with what's the other guy? Jeremy. They were around about the same time, and it was like this kind of early 2010. I don't know what that kind of decade is called, what we refer to it, but they changed the face of cycling from being like quite a dry thing to suddenly, oh my gosh, there's like youth involved and like a personality. Sorry, tell me about it.
Yeah, no, and he was one of the first. Actually, he was one of the first to go into gravel as an ex-road pro at least. When he finished his career, probably eight years ago or something, maybe a bit longer than that. But he was. I was talking to him head of Sea Otter, and I kind of put to him that maybe tyre sizes had plateaued, and I think this has come out and shown us that tyre sizes probably definitely haven't plateaued, and that was his a view as well, that they would potentially just keep getting bigger.
Right.
So who knows where they will end up.
It would be interesting to see some data on that. I know it's never the most exciting thing to say, but yeah, and maybe it is horses for courses. Like, you know, whatever you gotta bring the right thing to the right ride. So yeah, it will be interesting to see it, and you know, I think you can go two ways in cycling and the development of things. Of, is it all marketing BS, or is it actually innovative and driving the industry forward? And I mean, right now we all need a few new members in the industry. So maybe it's a good thing. Maybe we will all want to be riding on fat tyres and be significantly more comfortable. Perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the great things about the gravel scene is that you can basically try anything. There's no real limitations, as I think sort of the open wide bike shows. And at the same time, I think a lot of people buy gravel bikes as kind of a winter road bike almost, or just to be able to negotiate the potholes of their local roads, in a bit more comfort than on their road bike. So I think, there's something for everyone, and literally, whatever you want, you could probably get it, whether it's suspension or 35, 38 mil tires, etc., which is makes it quite appealing, I think.
Yeah, maybe I need to be kind of less cynical about it and more celebratory of people's innovation and driving the agenda, because it would be boring if they weren't doing stuff and we wouldn't be having this conversation. So if nothing else, it's a talking point.
Indeed. So on to another story, which I suppose is one that I was doing myself, which is the Tour of the Alps. I was in Austria and Italy last week for this like a 5-day mountainous stage race, which began in Innsbruck and over 5 days made its way over to northern Italy and finished in Bolzano, quite near Lake Garda. It was an amazing race to be on. The weather was absolutely beautiful, as was the scenery, although hard for the riders because they were hard days pretty much every day. In terms of sort of British hopes, I guess our eyes were on Tom Pidcock. That was his first race since he crashed. I imagine probably a lot of our listeners will remember that he crashed into a ravine, essentially, on the Volta Catalunya back in March, and he was very, very lucky to get away relatively unscathed, although he did have to have 2 weeks off the bike. So we were all looking at Tom to see how he was going to come through, and I think he did okay. I mean, he won a stage, but at the same time he was very up and down, and I think he was hoping to kind of test his form ahead of Liège, Bastogne-Liège, which we had on Sunday, and we'll talk about that a bit in a moment as well. But he wasn't perhaps quite where he hoped he would be for that. But other than that, it was a great race because we saw Giulio Pellizzari win 2 stages in the overall, which certainly for Italy, they were kind of ecstatic because 22 years old and very, very kind of rising fast, put it that way. He's their new kind of Grand Tour hope, really. And as we kind of go to the Giro d'Italia in a couple of weeks' time, all of Italy will be certainly looking at him. I mean, he's got a big task on his hands to kind of try and defeat Jonas Vingegaard, but I mean, it remains to be seen, but it should be a good battle.
Yeah, it looks stunning there, from the images and the footage we saw from you there, James. So did the crash affect Pidcock, do you think, in the way that he rode any of the descents or anything like that, or was his head in the right place, do you think?
Yeah, it's funny you should ask those 2 questions, because they are the 2 questions that I asked him when I spoke to him on the first day of the race. And well, he said without any doubt that it affected his form. I suppose you'd imagine that he'd had 2 weeks off the bike, but he insisted that it wasn't going to affect the way he descended sort of now or in the future, because what he said was essentially the Catalunya crash was it was like a host of kind of variables coming together to create this situation where he ended up riding over the edge. I think he was cornering, he was drinking. I'm not sure. I think someone maybe crashed in front of him as well.
I think it was, yeah. I wonder whether, I mean, it's a more of a question for probably I don't know, like a psychologist or something. But he was so what's the word? He was so capable of explaining what had gone wrong in the big crash, that I wonder whether because he was able to kind of literally define, this happened and that happened and that happened. So maybe he's able to kind of box it quite easier perhaps than that. I don't know what happened. The bike just went, or I just judged the corner, rather than like being able to be quite methodical about it and be like, well, I know, well, I won't do that again.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I think that is perhaps something that a lot of cyclists, I mean, I know that sprinters can often do this. They kind of, everything slows down. And I mean, Mark Cavendish was one of the best at this, kind of being able to process everything almost as it was in slow motion. And he could recall everything that happened between, 200 to 150, 150 to 100. And maybe it's the same for Pidcock. He could kind of, as you say, Hannah, just kind of replay the crash in his head and work out exactly what went wrong and be confident that it wasn't going to happen again, which obviously we really hope that it wouldn't.
Yeah, well, what a talent to have, to be able to just go, right. I mean, that's the difference between them and us, is to be able to do just that and not overthink anything and move on.
Yeah. Because, I mean, his descending is just phenomenal, isn't it? I mean, obviously one of the best in the world. That probably brings us fairly neatly onto our next kind of segment, which this week involves French star, you can't call him anything else, French star Paul Seixas. And I was going to say it kind of brings us on to him because his descending is absolutely superb, and he has matched Pidcock kind of wheel for wheel down some very technical descents. So not only is Seixas, superbly accomplished up the hills, but he can ride down them extremely fast as well. So, pretty much everybody needs to look out. But, one of the sort of debates we've been having, and it's kind of got everyone talking at home as well, I think, is whether Paul Seixas should this year go to the Tour de France. He's 19 years old. He's only just got his first pro wins this year, and there is a lot of pressure on him. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this.
I think it's inevitable, isn't it? I just think that there's a terminal velocity behind him. It's just. I just don't think
he's rolling. He's rolling.
I mean, you had Pogacar's comments this week about how he's going to destroy everyone in time, and I mean, he's so young. I mean, he's younger than my daughter, which really freaks me out. To think of that, and even Pogacar wasn't riding at that. I don't think anyway. I mean, I was interested in your guys' thoughts on this, but not showing quite
I
this
was riding a bike
audacious amount of talent in every area at that age, was he?
No, he wasn't where Seixas is, I would say. No.
So I don't think France will cope if he doesn't take part in the tour.
They've got to send him. I mean, you just look at I've been just having a little bit of a data, a stat check, and it's his world and we're just living in it. You look at decathlon. Let's say the whole team. It's decathlon, CMA, CGM. How do we say this? What's the abbreviation? Do we just say decathlon? As a team?
You can let's just say decathlon for now, because if we all say decathlon, CMA, CGM every time, we're going to
it's going to be quite painful, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be a long podcast.
When you do a little check for them, I mean, it's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 of the last 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 6 of the 10 kind of results have been from him at either one or first or second. So how can they not send him? And he can just go, they don't have anyone else. Who would they all be riding for if he wasn't there? Who's their what's their game plan? I don't know enough about the team to go, so and so will get this stage, or so and so will go for that. He can literally just go and have a blast. He can do no wrong in that race. If he just goes, I don't think it would be a fairy tale ending. I think it'd be nice to think it would be. I don't think stuff like that really happens. Happy to be proved wrong. Happy to lose a lot of money on, not money, but, cycling kind of our fantasy team stages. But yeah, I just think he can go and have fun with no pressure and get what it's all about.
No pressure.
Well, I think there is.
I don't know about that.
I honestly don't. I think France. I think he's young enough to go without the pressure of he can literally, he's not by rights. He doesn't have to, do anything. I don't think he feel. I think. No. I honestly don't think that. I think France are happy to see him there, but I don't think they'll be expecting anything from him.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
I mean, they might be kind of hoping for a stage, but they won't be expecting him to come home with a win or, even perhaps a GC podium. They might not. If he does ride it, I think it would be fair if he didn't ride the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's a funny world that we are living in now. It's just it's so different to how it was 15 years ago when 21 years old even was regarded as very young and at that point you were just an apprentice probably for another 5 years, and then you started to come into your own. Now, we're realizing how capable really young riders can be, certainly physically, with all this kind of advancements in training, nutrition, rest protocols. But at the same time, human being is still a human being, and, a lot of pressure. I think there's no doubt that Seixas is now kind of starting to come under a lot of pressure just because, cycling's eyes are on him, basically. Even if he's not expected to win everything.
But do you think would that get under? I mean, I'm just thinking if you were wearing that kind of I don't know, expectation, I don't know. I don't know that he would care. Like, you don't get to be that good by caring about what anyone else thinks. Like, I don't think he gives two hoots about anyone else. I know that sounds awful, but you would not be that capable as a rider if you actually stopped to worry about what anyone else is thinking. So I don't think
Well,
he has
yeah,
got any
he's-
pressure on him, because he's like, well, do
No,
my
It's
own
only-
I
thing.
mean,
doesn't-
this
it
is all
certainly doesn't
new, isn't
ride.
it? Because he has only just started winning races. Essentially, I mean, we knew he was good. He
Yeah.
obviously did well in the Tour de l'Avenir last year. But in terms of pro races, he's only just started winning. So this is all new. And I think at this point, it might still be an enjoyable novelty. And, Pogacar has kind of, he's dealt with it for whatever it is now, maybe 6 years, all this pressure, seemingly without a stumble. But he does now. So he seems to be as if it looks as though Pogacar might be kind of tiring of it slightly. So I'm sure Seixas has got plenty in him yet, but it would be a shame to kind of overdo it.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing, that if he doesn't go, I would think that's on him, and that would be his decision.
Yeah.
And that he potentially doesn't need to completely do himself over, like you said. Like, maybe he'll just go for like wherever the stages are. I don't know. Where's he from? Have we cross-checked the old stages for town of origin and what
He's
check
from
out
Lyon.
After that? He's from Lyon. Are we going to
so-
Lyon this year?
Well, it's certainly not a million miles from the Alps,
Yeah, that's true.
where it definitely will be going.
Yeah, so it's whether or not he can hang on in to a home stage and then like hoof it out of there after that. But
Yeah.
I was reading, I think Adam wrote, like, when he came second at I'm trying to think what it was. Maybe it was Liège. Yeah. That was only the second time he'd ever ridden that race, like, not ridden that distance, because that'd be mad, but raced at that different distance. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's wild.
he was
yeah.
Audacious.
seconds behind Pogacar, wasn't he, as well? But
Yeah,
I do
and it's-
think that I think you're right. He doesn't ride like he doesn't look like he's under any pressure the way he rides, and we are in a slightly different era now. We've got Max Dowman, the football player for Arsenal, who's 15 years old, and you've got people playing high level professional sport at just a ludicrously young age. And I know it is different because it's a team sport, and there's a different dynamic to a team sport than there's some. Well, cycling's a team sport too, of course, but in a different sense. But yeah, people are doing ludicrously advanced things in sport at crazy young ages. But yeah, I agree with all that. Whether it's actually sensible for him to ride it is another thing. But I think it's just inevitable.
And maybe that's a good question for another podcast around that responsibility, maybe as people in the industry, and how young is too young. Like, the thought of a child playing football, because he's 15, is a child at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even
I'm
know
like,
how
do
the law
people
works.
actually like? Are we? There's a moral obligation, I feel, for someone's, I don't know, decisions and life and health and all of that. But I don't know. But like I say, that's a question for another podcast. Maybe not even our
the
one.
football example. Yeah. I mean, the football example, I think, amazes me even more, because it's such a physical sport in the way that cycling isn't. I mean, cycling is obviously physical because you have to ride a bike and have a high VO2 max, but football is, you're kind of muscling your way through a lot of the time. Is very kind of, it's quite a lot of contact
contact
and
sport,
to be
yeah.
15 years old, you're not fully developed by any means.
No, you're not even
that
fully
just
grown. Your bones
astounds me.
It
Yeah.
astounds me. I mean, he hasn't even got a national insurance number, and he's playing. I don't know what he's earning. I don't know how that works. But it is. I mean, imagine putting him in against Roy Keane. And that's a different era. But yeah, stuff can happen. It does seem extraordinary.
Yeah, and people don't take any prisoners. And I don't know. I think it's good for younger generation. Definitely need to have exposure and to have, the ability to step up to those races. And perhaps I am being totally naive to say, like, I don't think he's riding with any pressure. But I generally like to think that he does not care about what anyone else is thinking right now. He generally can just turn up and roll off the start ramp. And, he'll go down in the French legend.
But there is, from I don't know, what's the word, pastoral point of view about how what happens then if he does win a stage, if it's a success, what will that do to his head? At that massively young age, there's a psychological element to it as well. Like, if you end up with a dream scenario where he does spectacularly well, could you long term? That could actually be quite damaging for someone.
That's when the pressure comes, and that's when, like you say, you can kind of like look across to other sports where that's happened, and we've had young prodigies and they've done amazingly well, and then kind of struggled isn't the right word, but like the variables in sport are not kind, and unless you've played sport at that level, there's obviously, you do your due diligence in terms of preparation and your training and your nutrition and all of that stuff, but there's an element of luck, and sometimes it just does not fall on your side for a very long time after, if a game. And for some reason, we just blame the individual a lot of the time for that. And for that to happen when somebody is so young, like you say, that pastoral kind of care, I hope maybe that's one thing that we just need to get better at, especially as, kind of, I like to say, people in the industry, and maybe we need to push that kind of agenda.
The media definitely got a role in it, I think.
Yeah, there is, you do have to tread a fine line. And I do think, as far as teams are concerned, they're a lot more aware of this kind of stuff now than they have been ever before. And they take it seriously. And I imagine there'll be people at Decathlon looking at Paul Seixas thinking, right, we need to kind of really take care here. But it's a difficult one, isn't it? They know that, essentially they know it looks like they've got the golden goose. They've got to kind of be careful with that. And
but at the same time, you're like, he's a 19-year-old boy. I know he's technically an adult, but, he's a kid. Like, wow. I can't even tell my 11-year-old anything, let alone a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
He'll know it all. I wonder how that conversation used to happen with his parents. Because he actually
probably always end with, "I'm going cycling."
Yeah.
Which I'm sure they weren't that fussed about. So,
It is hilarious to think he's going toe to toe with Pogacar though, and I can't even get my daughter, who's a year older, to wash up.
Well, for all you know, Pat, he may be terrible at washing up.
We need to ask these questions. We need to ask these kind of like this background thing of like, we put these people on pedestals, and what we want to know, we want them to dish the dirt. Does he do his own washing up? Does he make his bed?
Does he leave his pants?
Does he remember? Does he remember his Garmin on every ride?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he must do that because, as we all know, if you don't put it on Strava, it never happens.
Never happened.
You need that. But despite any other foibles or flaws he may have, as we move on to the next section, I am going to kind of put it out there, and it may be slightly obvious, but I've made Paul Seixas my hero of this week.
Have we got a little jingle for that? Can we add a little, I don't know, a little trumpet button or something like that on your keyboard?
Is there a jingle here? Isn't that what they do? So, I mean, for me, it's just having somebody that can take Tadej Pogacar to task. He's injected a lot of excitement into cycling. And, I think sort of a few years ago, we looking at Pogacar, and it's extremely exciting, but we don't want to necessarily see someone winning every race, unopposed. We want a battle, and Paul Seixas definitely giving him that at the moment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know about you guys. Pat, who's your hero or villain of the week?
So it's a pair. Well, they come. I'm sure they're individuals in their own right, but two guys called Jamie Hargreaves and Alfie Cookson, who are currently riding Land's End to John O'Groats on a tandem bike, towing two wheelie bins behind them, and picking up litter as they go. Not every bit of litter, because they would never ever get there, but they are pausing at certain junctures, certain places where it's particularly bad, and filling those wheelie bins up with litter. Couple of extremely likable lads, very charismatic. I interviewed them last week, actually. In the end, they were literally cycling through the mountains of Wales and talking to me from their tandem. But they're very engaging, very funny. And they've got some good cycling chops as well. I mean, Jamie cycled to Australia last year in the tyre tracks of his dad, who did the same trip at the same age 40 years before. So yeah, cycled all the way. He's standing knows his way around a bike. But yeah, and not only that, actually, they're also stopping at the highest peak in Wales, England, and Scotland, and they're not riding to the top, obviously, but they are dragging the wheelie bins to the top of Scarfell, Snowdon, and Ben Nevis, to collect litter on the way. They're all in. They're all in. They are certainly my heroes of the week. Yeah.
Wow.
How many times did they fill up their bins with rubbish, I wonder?
Quite a lot, I think.
Yeah. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
Especially taking them to the top of the mountains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard enough getting yourself to the top of mountains like that. Even though for some of our listeners, they would be sort of relatively small mountains at sort of 1,000 meters or so. But still extremely impressive stuff. Hannah, how about you?
Oh, well, I mean, how do I conjure from there? So I will go with a hero. That's nice. We've all had heroes this week. Well, kind of heroes. So Demi Vollering's my hero because of her ride over the weekend, and also for calling out the lack of coverage for the women's races. In that, I think what's happened, is it just for this season, that the races are now run much closer to women's races are run much closer to the men's races, but consequently they get significantly less coverage. And obviously she's kind of called it out, saying women deserve more. Absolutely, wholeheartedly agree with that. And brilliant for her using her platform, like literally finishing a race and feeling the responsibility, the weight from every female cyclist or female kind of cycling fan to say something about it. So that is amazing. But then the villains. Oh, I know you shouldn't go in the comments, but I've been in the comments and it's been all over because the kind of the sound bite has been clipped and used on everything from more or less mainstream, if mainstream actually covered women's cycling. But most cycling titles, all cycling titles have kind of made a page about it. And God, it's so depressing. It's so depressing reading the same thing over and over again, to the point that I'm actually like, is this just one person gone on to every cycling title's website to comment the same thing about, they don't do the same distance, therefore they shouldn't have the same coverage. It's like, are we really there? Is this where we are? Just understanding the difference between equality and equity, and we're still building the equity in order that we can get equality of coverage. So that's my rant of the week. And yeah, I mean, maybe I need my own show just to screaming to, and anyone can just kind of dial in and we can do a kind of a joint shout at, I don't know, at the comment box.
Yeah, it was Paris-Roubaix, I think, where they condensed it it went from 2 days to 1 day, so the races were being cycled concurrently, and and they even do the press conferences, I think, for the men before they cut across to where the women are, so you miss massive chunks of the women's race. It's just not really good. It's not good enough, is it?
It's not. It's not. And yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
James.
I mean, Demi Vollering kind of made the point that, well, it should be perfectly feasible to actually be able to switch between, for example, channels on TNT in the UK. Just to give that example, to watch the men's and the women's, watch all of them. As she said, quite pointedly, especially when Tadej Pogacar is attacked with 60 kilometers to go and everybody already knows what's going to happen anyway. I mean, I'm sure, at that point, as many people would quite like to just watch the women's race, because
absolutely, because you would have gone and put the kettle on and gone, well, we know what's happening now, don't we? Like, I'll go and make tea.
Yeah. So, yeah, very good point. And I do hope the sort of broadcast is going to address that next year. But, so many things at play, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's just so rubbish. And I've stopped ranting about it. I was just saying it's so rubbish. It's like, why is she having to advocate for this? She's like, not only it's not enough. Like, she just won, a huge ride, a huge race, and it's, it was exciting and it was, stuff going on, but it's not enough. It's not enough. You still have to do your bit of advocacy on the line. It's like, why is she doing that? Why is she having to do that? Betty, I'll stop ranting.
Frustrating.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's all we got time for this week. So thank you, Hannah.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Pat.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Please do remember to like and subscribe. Tell all your friends about the podcast. And if you do want to get in touch, the email address is cycling@futurenet.com, or just contact us on social media. And once more, please do buy that magazine. Thanks very much, and see you next time.